In this video, I'm going to give you my top 25 roller coasters. I've gained a lot of credits over the years and I'm up to 167 credits as of this video. So I figured it was a great time to gather up my credits and rank my top 25. But before I do that, if you're new to this channel, hey, welcome to Coasters and Travels, where I talk about roller coasters, theme parks, and travels. If that sounds good to you, please consider subscribing, and while you're at it, like this video. It's free and it helps the channel greatly. Alright, before I start, I got two disclaimers. First of all, I have not been to Cedar Point yet. That is definitely something that I plan on changing in 2025. And second, a lot of parks on this list I haven't been since 2015. So any roller coaster that was built after 2015 at those parks, I just have not ridden yet. So with those disclaimers out the way, let's get started. At number 25, we got SheiKra, located at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Man, I love this coaster, and for the past couple of seasons, SheiKra has been running very well. It's very smooth for its age, and I just love the two drops, especially in the back row. It gives a lot of good airtime, and it's just visually fun to look at, seeing the people scream from the top. I like that SheiKra is a 2-in-1 attraction. You got the roller coaster, and then you have the water part where people will love to get wet in. It's very useful, especially on those hot Florida days. SheiKra is a pretty solid ride, and I enjoy it very much. It's a great roller coaster, and it deserves number 25. Number 24 is Lightning Rod, located at Dollywood. I spoke about this in my RMC rankings, and yeah, I was pretty disappointed with this ride. Although I only got one ride, and it was in the back row, and it was earlier in the day, so my guess that it hasn't warmed up, and RMCs are well known to be pretty slow when you first open. I did not get a chance to get a night ride, so hopefully when I visit next time my mind will change, but right now it's number 24. I just didn't like, first of all, it was a little bit rough on certain parts of the ride, and the quad down was not giving like I thought it was going to give. Again, it was earlier in the day, so hopefully on my return to Dollywood I will get better rides and this will go up in the list. Number 23 is Twisted Cyclone, located at Six Flags Over Georgia. This one really surprised me, even though it's one of the slowest RMCs on the list. I really enjoy this ride. I love the first drop. It is very funky. To be such a short drop, it's actually better drop than Air Force One in my opinion. It's really good. The pacing is not as good as the other RMCs on this list, but I still enjoy it. The reverse Cobra roll is very floaty. The airtime is still good. I love the wave turn. This ride is pretty solid, and I enjoy it for what it is. Number 22 is Wonder Woman Flight of Courage, located at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This was my very first RMC Raptor, and I am glad to finally have ridden one. This one was not as whippy as I expected to be, but I assume that's really more of the first generation RMC Raptors that are more whippier, but I still had a good time with this. The pacing was nice. I liked the inversions and the airtime and stuff like that. The only thing I didn't like was how long that line was when I waited, but overall I think this was a pretty solid ride, and yeah, looking forward to riding more RMC Raptors. Number 21 is Tatu, located at Six Flags Magic Mountain. One of my favorite things about Tatu is the scenery. When you're up there, it really feels like you're flying, like you're on a true flying roller coaster, and I really do like that experience. I thought I was going to enjoy the pretzel loop a bit more, but it was a bit bumpy down there, and it was not as intense as I expected. And I rode this in the very back row, but I did ride this earlier in the day, so probably it would have been better had I rode it later in the day. But man, Six Flags Magic Mountain was running one train operations for majority of their rides, so it was like I was not getting back in that line again. But Tatu, for what it was a good ride, and I enjoyed the scenery and how high you are up there. Number 20 is Manta, located at SeaWorld Orlando. As much as I like Tatu, I just like Manta a little more than Tatu. First of all, the pretzel loop on Manta is much smoother, and in my opinion, it's a lot more intense, especially in that back row. A lot of those swoops that Manta has a, is pretty intense, and it's a pretty good flying coaster. The only issue is when you at the brake run and you got to wait for the other train to load if they're running two trains. But besides that, Manta is a great ride, very intense, one of the most intense coasters in Florida, and it's number 20. Number 19 is Thunderhead, located in Dollywood. This ride is very good. I rode this back in 2015 and I rode it again in 2023. It's funny to hear people saying that it got rough, but by the time I rode it again in 2023, they already, ironed out the rough patches, and it really felt no different than back in 2015, which is a good thing because 2015 Thunderhead was awesome and the pacing was great. I love how you go through the station. I love the station flyby. Just a fun ride overall. And yeah, really enjoyed this. Number 18 is Batman the Ride, located at Six Flags Over Georgia. Man, oh man, I have ridden 4 Batman clones so far, and this by far is the best. I don't know what they're doing over at Six Flags Over Georgia, but this is the only Batman clone that gets my feet tingling throughout the ride. And man, this is good. This is great. Definitely a top ride at Six Flags Over Georgia. And yeah, look forward to riding it every time I visit. Number 17 is Diamondback, located at Kings Island. I remember riding this back in 2015. This was the coaster that kind of got me back into being a coaster enthusiast, because prior to 2015, I only did like trips like back in the late 2000s, and this was like my great return to, you know, taking trips and stuff. So Diamondback is kind of like a landmark coaster for me as far as me being a coaster enthusiast. I remember how intense the back row was, and man, that ride was very wild. The only thing I'm not a fan of is that splash, because it really does nothing. I mean, it's a nice visual, but I feel like I'd rather just had another airtime hill there. But the layout is very, very good. Those drops, yeah, you will feel it in the back row. And I love those trains. I like how long they are. I think that's why I like Diamondback in the back row, because of the trains. Really like the train design, because the longer the train is, the more intense that back row is. So yeah, it was fun. Number 16 is Nitro, located at Six Flags Great Adventure. I love this ride so much, and I love the layout of this ride so much. It really gives some really good floater, and it just, it's like a journey. You're going out on a journey. You're like pretty much leaving the park and going to the woods and stuff. It's just really fun to ride. And I love that upward helix going into the mid-course brake run is really fun. And probably the second half of the ride is one of my favorite second halves on a hypercoaster. It's just airtime buffet. That's all it is, and I love it. It's so fun. It's a great ride. The airtime, the floater airtime is good, not as sustained as the other hypers above this list, but still a good time. I love how long it is. I love the drop. The first drop is fantastic. Nitro is a great ride. Number 15 is Goliath, located at Six Flags Over Georgia. Man, now this ride, probably one of the more intense hyper coasters on this list. And I say that because, number one, the ride is not the smoothest. It's probably the bumpiest or quote unquote roughest hyper on this list, but it's not too bad. And in my opinion, I feel like that little bumpiness gives the ride a bit more character. It does feel a lot more wild. And I don't know what's going on with the restraint standards, but I feel like every time I ride Goliath, I feel like I'm about to fall off the ride, because the restraints barely, you know, touch me. It's like they're very, very generous with the restraints, and man, you can get some insane, some scary airtime on that ride. And I love the layout that is non-stop. There's no mid-course brake run. One of the best layouts out there. Really fun ride. I love the airtime. One of the best rides at Six Flags Over Georgia. Number 14 is Candymonium, located at Hershey Park. Now, the thing I love about this ride, I rode this in opening year in 2020. It was very, very good as far as like sustained airtime. This ride has some of the most sustained floating airtime I've ever ridden, and it's so good. And people complain about the trim on the second hill, but I didn't feel it when I rode it, and I rode this ride twice. I thought it was great. The second half of the ride is pretty cool, going around the fountain and stuff like that. The ending is a little weird, but overall the ride is just fantastic. A great fit for Hershey Park, and definitely looking forward to going back to Hershey Park to ride this again. Number 13 is Mako, located at SeaWorld Orlando. This ride gives some of the best sustained floater airtime I have ever felt. You know, nothing can beat that 5-second airtime hill. That's probably one of the best sustained moments ever. And then this year, especially around the holidays, I was getting a lot of trimless Mako rides. That second camelback, that trim was not activating on the majority of those rides, and I'm just like, whoa, you can feel it too. It's not a huge difference, but you can definitely feel the airtime being a bit more intense going to the brake run. And yeah, it is good. It is very, very good. A lot of people aren't a fan of the second half, but I think it's pretty unique. It has a lot of different elements. You know, that it got the camelback, and then it got those really bank turns. That first bank turn, you get very whipped to the side. So yeah, it's pretty good. A very unique ending and very fun ride, very re-rideable. This is probably one of the first rides I go to when I go to SeaWorld Orlando. Mako is just awesome. Number 12 is Texas Steamray, located at SeaWorld San Antonio. And this is by far my favorite GCI roller coaster. I have not ridden Mystic Timbers yet, and I look forward to riding that in 2025. Texas Steamray is so good, and there's a lot of things that does differently from other GCIs. First of all, this is one of the few GCIs that I've ridden with a straight drop, because most GCI roller coasters have that nice curve drop. Texas Steamray has a straight drop, and I like that. It has lots of pops of airtime all over the ride, laterals all over, and the best part of Texas Steamray is that there's no seatbelt. All it is just a lap bar, and you feel the freeness. It's like, it feels like a true out of control wooden roller coaster. Love it so much. The laterals, the airtime, the little pops of airtime. I love this ride so much. Texas Steamray is the best roller coaster in SeaWorld San Antonio, and dare I say, it's a top 3 coaster in Texas overall. Number 11 is Afterburn, located in Carowinds. I remember I first rode this and I was just like flabbergasted how good this ride was, because no one really talked about Afterburn. I didn't really hear any like praise or anything about this ride. So when I rode it for the first time back in 2015, I was just like, wow, okay, this ride is good, especially the final inversion. That's the one thing that I just do not forget. I just cannot forget how whippy that last inversion was. Like, it was extremely intense. I was just thrown off. That corkscrew and then that helix to the final brake run. Yeah, Afterburn is super solid, great ride. Number 10 is Kumba, located at Busch Gardens, Tampa. And actually this ride kind of shot up back in my ratings because of this past year. It was running so much better than usual. Now, yeah, on certain roads, yeah, it's bumpier and it's rougher, but man, it's definitely has run better than previous years. And I love the pure intensity of this ride, especially during the valleys in between elements. You will feel it. Especially, I would say the most intense part is the Cobra roll, in my opinion. Going into it and then traversing, that may be the most intense Cobra roll I've ever experienced. And then the second half, going through this corkscrew and then going through the cave, that helix, you pull some crazy G's near the end of the ride. Kumba is awesome old school B&M, and hopefully we get to see more of it from the years to come. Number 9 is Twisted Colossus, located at Six Flags Magic Mountain. I like the dueling aspect of the ride when it does duel. When I rode it like in the middle row because I didn't care for waiting in the back or the front row. I just wanted to get a ride in. And you know, RMCs are the type of rides where you can ride any row and have a great time. It was exactly that for Twisted Colossus. Really enjoyed the ride. Nothing but ejector on that ride. All the hills are ejector, and I love it. The key feature of this ride is the dueling aspect. It's really, really fun watching the train next to you traverse elements while you're traversing your own elements. It's really, really cool. It kind of sucks that they don't do it all the time, but when it does duel, it's amazing. Really enjoyed this ride. Great coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Number 8 is Manta, located at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. And man, oh man, this ride has been running so freaking good in 2024. The night rides have been insane, especially if you ride the back row. You get pulled down that first drop. Like, the G's down the first drop is insane. More insane than any other inverted coaster I know. The Batwing for that, oh my goodness, it's just so feet tingling good. It is really, really good. All the inversions hit. All of them, every single last inversion hit. It has that good old school B&M intensity, and that's why Manta is number 8 on my list. Number 7 is Accelerator, located at Knott's Berry Farm. I rode this early in 2024, and man, I was just so impressed with the launch, how punchy it was. It was probably half as intense as King of Ka. Still intense, don't get me wrong, still very, very intense, but the main difference with Accelerator is that I can actually handle the intensity, because I still remember how intense that King of Ka ride was. But the one thing I like about Accelerator is that it has still a very intense launch, and I love the airtime you get over the top hat, and I just love the ride overall. It's really fun, really intense. Definitely one of the better rides at Knott's Berry Farm. And I was lucky to ride it because I heard that the ride has been closed for a while. So I was lucky to get some rides on that. I think I got about 2 or 3 rides. Very fun ride, good punchy, intense acceleration. Accelerator is a very solid ride at Knott's Berry Farm. Number 6 is Iron Rattler, located at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. Iron Rattler is one of the earlier RMCs, and It probably has one of my favorite trains ever on RMC. These trains are the Gerstlauer trains, and they are so much more comfortable than the current trains that RMC uses. It just really helps you enjoy the ride a lot more since you're a lot more free going through the inversions, and you still feel pretty safe. Love the first drop, one of the most funkiest drops I've ever experienced on a roller coaster. Definitely love the 0G roll to the quarry wall, the drop off the quarry wall. Oh, so good. It is so good. That whole finale is excellent. The great thing about Iron Rattler is that it starts with a bang and it ends with a bang. After you drop off the quarry, then you go to the tunnel, and then you hit this really hard right into the brake run. It is so intense, but it's so good. Yeah, Iron Rattler is awesome. Number 5 is El Toro, located at Six Flags Great Adventure. This version of El Toro was back in 2015. And honestly, I had different opinions on it back then, but man, I'm gonna tell you, over time I have changed as a roller coaster enthusiast. I kind of like intense rides a lot more, and that's why I put El Toro on number 5, because I still remember that first drop took my breath away. All of those hills, nothing but ejector. Also, that Rolling Thunder hill, oh my god, I have never felt ejected out of a ride before. That ride is so awesome, so relentless. I heard that it got rougher, but I look forward to a future visit in Great Adventure. Probably not gonna go to Great Adventure for a while, especially with all the rides closing and stuff, but eventually I will make a return to Great Adventure and get a updated ride on El Toro. Hopefully it hasn't gone too bad, but I have a bad feeling it will drop in my ratings, but as of now, it's number 5. Number 4 is Fury 325, located at Carowin. This is another ride I've ridden back in 2015. Let me tell you, 2015 was a hell of a year for me. One of the main things I remember on Fury 325 is that first drop. How it just feels so endless. It's probably one of my favorite drops ever on a roller coaster. I love how fast it goes through the elements. The treble clef drop is awesome. The airtime hills, when it does have it, actually provides some good ejector. This is probably the first B&M roller coaster that has ejector airtime. B&M was crazy for making this ride. I wish they made more crazy rides like this, because I feel like they have the potential to really just go all in. Until then, Fury 325 is going to be the best they have. Number 3 is Velocicoaster, located at Universal Islands of Adventure. At one point, this roller coaster was my number 1, but until I started branching out and riding other coasters, namely other RMCs, it dipped a little bit in my ranking, but not too much. Couple of things I like about the ride. I feel like this is quote unquote the quintessential perfect roller coaster for everybody. This is a roller coaster that everybody can ride. It has like the perfect amount of intensity, the perfect amount of inversions, the perfect amount of layout. It's very well done. Intamin did a fantastic job making this ride. I love the Mosasaurus roll, one of my favorite inversions ever. The first half is pretty good, lots of pops of ejector there, and I love the launch to the top hat. Yeah, very fun ride. I still think it's great, not my favorite like it used to be, but it's still a wonderful ride and deserving of number 3. Number 2 is Air Force One, located at Fun Spot America, Atlanta. And man, I had no idea how good this ride was going to be. And this ride is in the middle of nowhere, but it's definitely one of the top coasters out there. One of the best parts of the ride is the stall. Probably one of the best stalls I've ever experienced. The arcade roll is good. Actually, this ride got a lot of good inversions. The Raven Trust diet, all of the inversions on this ride is pretty good, pretty solid. The pacing is out of control. Going through the arcade roll, you are going through it with so much speed, and then the finale, oh boy, a lot of people talk about this finale, but I like it. But I noticed the more I ride it, the more I have to go towards the front of the train, because man, that finale is super intense, and I don't know how many people can handle it back to back in the back row, but if I'm going to marathon it, definitely near the front row. Air Force One is awesome, and I'm glad that I'm not too far from it, and I look forward to riding it next time. Number 1 is Iron Gwazi, located at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. This is probably the third list I've done where Iron Gwazi is number 1 on my list, but that just goes to show you how awesome this ride is. It's so tall. The first drop is fantastic. All the head choppers going into the outer airtime hill, and then the death roll. Not my favorite inversion, but I do like it. It's pretty unique. But my favorite element absolutely is the wave turn. That wave turn is so freaking good, and you get ejected out your seat there. Oh, it's so good. The main aspect of Iron Gwazi is that it's just really fast. It's just so fast paced. There's no trims on this ride. It's just crazy from beginning to end, and that's why it's my number 1 coaster. Until something else topples that, maybe still Vengeance once I visit Cedar Point, maybe not, but Until then, Iron Gwazi is #1 and it will stay there. Alright y'all, that's pretty much it for this video. If you're still here, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.